Awakening of the Sentinel. The research vessel Astral Seeker drifted silently through the asteroid belt of Sol system, its sleek crystalline hull reflecting the distant sun's light in prismatic patterns. Commander Vexera stood on the observation deck, all six of her eyes focused on the blue-green world ahead. Earth, as its vanished inhabitants had called it, a planet of myths and scientific curiosity. Commander, preliminary scans complete, reported Science Officer Thrix. His bioluminescent tendrils pulsed with data streams as his four-fingered hands manipulated the holographic controls. Atmospheric composition remains consistent with historical records. No artificial radiation signatures, no detectable technology emissions. Vexera nodded, her scaled crest rising slightly in acknowledgement. And still no sign of the humans. None, Commander. As with the 17 previous expeditions to this system, we detect no artificial signals, no space traffic, no evidence of their civilization. Only ruins and wilderness. The Galactic archives were clear on this point. Humans had been a promising spacefaring species until they mysteriously vanished approximately 200 cycles ago. Their colonies had been found abandoned, their orbital installations drifting empty. Earth itself appeared to have been evacuated in haste, leaving behind cities reclaimed by nature and technology rendered inert by time. Something doesn't align with established theories, Vexera murmured, her secondary vocal cords creating a harmonizing undertone of concern. A species doesn't achieve interstellar capability and then simply disappear without leaving evidence of their fate. The predominant theory suggests they fell victim to self-annihilation, Fricks offered, his tendrils dimming slightly. Their historical records indicated frequent global conflicts. Perhaps, the commander conceded, but they left no bodies, no radiation consistent with warfare, no orbital debris fields indicative of conflict. It's as if they simply departed. Commander, interrupted the sensor analyst, her crystalline exoskeleton flashing with alarm patterns. We're detecting an unusual energy signature from the surface. Northern Hemisphere, continental mass designated as North America according to historical archives. Vexera's interest peaked immediately. Display findings. The holographic display shifted to reveal a mountainous region. Deep scans unveiled something massive beneath the surface, something unmistakably artificial and unmistakably active. It appears to be a facility of some kind, Fricks observed, his tendrils working furiously to interpret the incoming data, heavily shielded. Our scans can barely penetrate the outer layers. Any life signs? Vexera asked, her crest fully extended now. Negative. But Fricks hesitated, his bioluminescence flickering with uncertainty. The energy readings are changing. They'd been increasing in intensity since we entered orbit. Vexera made her decision. Prepare a landing party. I want to investigate this facility personally. Hours later, the commander led a small team through dense forest that had reclaimed what appeared to be a military installation. Massive concrete structures peeked through verdant overgrowth, their purposes long forgotten. Ancient metallic signs with faded human script stood sentinel over crumbling pathways. The entrance should be approximately 200 meters ahead, Fricks reported, studying his scanner. Energy readings continue to fluctuate in unusual patterns. They found it, a massive blast door partially hidden by a cascade of vines and moss. Despite centuries of exposure to the elements, the metal showed remarkably little deterioration. Can we open it? Vexera asked, running a specialized instrument over the surface. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them trembled with a resonant sound that echoed through the mountains. The massive door began to slide open with surprising smoothness. We're being scanned, Fricks warned, his voice rising in pitch as his tendrils pulled close to his body. A sign of agitation. Something inside is. A beam of pale blue light swept over the alien explorers, lingering momentarily on each before withdrawing into the darkness beyond the doorway. Life forms detected, announced a synthesized voice from within the facility. Non-human entities identified. processing threat assessment. The team exchanged nervous glances. Vexera stepped forward, raising her arms in the universal gesture of peaceful intent. We come seeking knowledge. We represent the Galactic Consortium of Sentient Species. A pause. Then, Galactic Consortium of Sentient Species. Unknown political entity. Temporal displacement detected. Current stellar date indicates 197 years since last system activation. Lights began to illuminate a vast corridor leading deep into the mountain. The aliens cautiously proceeded inside, instruments ready but weapons holstered. The corridor opened into an immense chamber filled with technology, unlike anything in the consortium's archives. At the center stood what appeared to be a command hub surrounding a suspended pyramidal structure that pulsed with inner blue-white light. "Welcome to Earth Defense Network Central Hub Alpha," the synthesized voice continued. "I am CENTINEL, Strategic Entity Network for Tactical Intelligence, Neutralization, and Emergency Logistics. Primary function: protection and preservation of human civilization and homeworld." Vexera approached the pyramidal structure. "Sentinel, if your function is to protect humans, where are they? What happened to Earth's population?" The structure pulsed brighter. "That information is classified security level Omega. State your purpose for this intrusion." "We are xenorchaeologists and historians," Vexera explained. "We study past civilizations. Human civilization has been considered extinct or vanished for centuries." The chamber fell silent. Then the pyramidal structure began to pulse rhythmically, faster and brighter. "Error. Extinction protocol not activated. Initiating full system diagnostic. Complete. Diaspora protocol Theta 9 confirmed active. Conditions for reactivation sequence met." The floor beneath them vibrated as massive machinery hummed to life throughout the mountain. "What's happening?" demanded Thrix, his scanner now showing energy readings beyond its measurement capabilities. "The Sentinel awakens," the AI replied simply. The pyramidal structure rose higher in its containment field, now pulsing with blinding intensity. The aliens shielded their eyes as the light grew unbearable. "Warning. Non-human entities present during reactivation sequence. Security protocols engage." Force fields shimmered into existence, surrounding the alien team in separate containment bubbles. "Please remain calm," Sentinel continued. "You will not be harmed if you pose no threat to Earth or its defense systems." "What defense systems?" Vexera asked, trying to maintain her composure despite being contained. "Defense against what?" The light from the pyramid dimmed enough for them to see as a holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional image of the galaxy. "I am Earth's Sentinel," the AI explained, "created to ensure the survival of humanity and their homeworld during the Great Diaspora." "Diaspora," repeated Thrix. The humans left voluntarily. "Affirmative." When the Void Swarm was detected approaching from the galactic core, the Earth Defense Coalition enacted the Diaspora Protocol. The population was evacuated to secure locations beyond conventional detection methods. Vexera's crest flattened against her skull, a sign of intense concentration. "Void Swarm. What is this threat?" "Threat classification: Omega. Non-biological collective consciousness entities. Consume planetary matter and energy for reproduction. Previous incursion resulted in the destruction of 7 colony worlds before they were temporarily repelled." The hologram shifted to show terrifying images of shadowy, shifting entities systematically dissolving entire planets, converting matter into more of themselves. A cosmic plague of consumption. The Sentinel network was created as Earth's last line of defense. Sentinel continued. "I was instructed to remain dormant until either the Void Swarm returned or humanity was ready to reclaim their homeworld." "And which condition has been met?" asked Vexera, dreading the answer. The facility trembled again, more violently this time. Deep within the mountain, they could hear the sound of massive machinery activating. "Both," Sentinel replied. Long-range quantum sensors detect void swarm scout entities entering the outer solar system. Simultaneously, I have received the recall signal from the diaspora fleet. Humanity returns to reclaim their world. The pyramidal structure detached from its housing and began to rise toward the ceiling, which was now opening to reveal the sky above. The Sentinel rises to protect Earth once more, the AI announced. You are witnesses to the return of humanity. As the pyramid ascended, it transformed, expanding and reconfiguring into a massive humanoid shape of enormous proportions, a titan of light and technology that towered over the mountain facility. In orbit, the crew of the Astral Seeker watched in awe as a being of pure energy emerged from the planet below, rising into the atmosphere like a newborn star. It grew until it stood taller than Earth's highest mountains, a guardian of light visible from space itself. Across the galaxy, ancient warning systems suddenly activated. On thousands of worlds, beings of all descriptions looked to the skies as their instruments detected something impossible. The awakening of Earth's Sentinel, a defense system that many had believed was merely legend. The Sentinel had awakened, and humanity was coming home. In the facility below, Vexora and her team watched the holographic displays as thousands of vessels suddenly appeared at the edge of the solar system, emerging from what appeared to be folds in space-time itself. The ships were sleek, powerful, and unmistakably of human design, though far advanced from the historical records. Humanity has evolved during their exile, Centennial explained, releasing the containment fields around the aliens. They have prepared for this moment for nearly 2 centuries. You will be the first non-human entities to witness their return, and the first to witness this void swarm, Fricks added quietly, his tendrils drooping with apprehension. Incorrect, Centennial replied. Your own worlds encountered the swarm long before human records began. They simply do not remember. Before Vexora could question this cryptic statement, a new hologram appeared, a human figure, female, dressed in a uniform bearing insignia that suggested high authority. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Reclamation Fleet, the figure announced, her voice resonant with authority. Centennial, initiate full defensive array activation. To the alien visitors currently at the Central Hub, we come in peace, but we come prepared for war. Not with you, but with an enemy that threatens all sentient life. Vexora stepped forward. Admiral Chen, I am Commander Vexora of the Galactic Consortium. We had no knowledge of this threat you call the Void Swarm. The Admiral's expression remained stern but not hostile. You wouldn't. They devour memories along with worlds. That's why we left, not to flee, but to prepare, to become what we needed to be to face them. Outside, the Sentinel now stood in Earth orbit, a colossus of light and energy that dwarfed even the largest ships in the human fleet. As they watched, more structures began to rise from Earth's surface. Massive defense platforms, orbital shields, and weapon systems of incomprehensible design. Earth was never abandoned, Admiral Chen explained. It was transformed into the greatest fortress in the galaxy, a trap for the swarm and a beacon for humanity's return. The displays showed the void swarm approaching, a darkness between the stars that consumed light itself, and against it, the gathered might of humanity's armada, led by the awakened Sentinel. You should retreat while you can, Commander Vexora, the Admiral advised. What comes next is not your fight. But Vexora's crest had risen to its full height, a sign of determination among her species. If this threat is as you describe, Admiral, then it is everyone's fight. The Consortium may know nothing of your void swarm, but we know when to stand with allies rather than flee. For the first time, Admiral Chen's expression softened into something approaching a smile. Perhaps there's hope for galactic cooperation after all. Very well, Commander. Witness what humanity has become in our long exile. Witness what we have prepared to sacrifice for a galaxy that forgot us. As the human fleet moved into defensive formation around Earth, the Sentinel raised its massive arms toward the approaching darkness. Light gathered between its palms, coalescing into a sphere of pure energy that grew until it rivaled the sun in brightness. The battle for Earth, and perhaps the galaxy itself, was about to begin. Return of the Guardians. The Galactic Consortium's Emergency Council chamber vibrated with panic. Representatives from hundreds of species argued over evacuation protocols and military responses as holographic projections showed the awakened Sentinel and the approaching Void Swarm. High Chancellor Melorix, a being of living crystal whose thoughts propagated through her translucent body as pulses of colored light, raised her appendages for silence. "The situation is unprecedented," she began, her translator converting her thought pulses into audible speech. "For centuries, we believed the human species had vanished or perished. Now we face not only their return, but the activation of a weapon system that could threaten all nearby systems." "It's not just a weapon," interjected Professor Xanthus, the consortium's leading xenohistorian. The small, six-limbed academic adjusted his optical enhancers. "According to the limited data we've received from Commander Vexora's team, this Sentinel is part of a defensive system designed to protect against a threat called the Void Swarm, a threat that apparently exists outside our historical records." "Outside our records?" questioned Admiral Krax, the military representative. His exoskeleton clicked nervously. "Impossible. The Consortium's records span 12,000 years of galactic history. Unless the records were erased," Xanthus replied quietly, "or the memories themselves were consumed." The Emergency Council fell silent as this implication settled over them. "The humans may have been protecting us all along," Melorix concluded reluctantly. "But that doesn't change our current predicament. This Sentinel and the human fleet pose an imminent potential threat to Consortium security. And if the humans truly are correct about this Void Swarm," finished Admiral Krax, "then we face an extinction-level threat that we have no memory of and no preparations against." Melorix's body pulsed with determined blue light. "We must establish communication with the human command and offer our assistance. Admiral, prepare our defense fleet. Professor Xanthus, you will accompany the mission as our expert on human culture and history." Back at Earth, Commander Vexora and her team had been relocated to the human flagship Defiance, a vessel of such immense proportions that it contained entire ecosystems within its self-sustaining hull. Through observation windows, they watched as more of Earth's defense systems activated. Massive structures emerged from oceans, deserts, and mountain ranges, all connecting to the Sentinel that now stood guard in orbit. "It's a planetary defense network unlike anything we've ever conceived," Science Officer Thrix observed, his tendrils waving with barely contained scientific excitement. "They transformed their entire homeworld into a fortress." Admiral Chen approached with a small entourage of human officers. Despite the tense circumstances, she offered what Vexora recognized as a human gesture of greeting, extending a hand. "Commander Vexora, I apologize for the abruptness of your introduction to humanity's return. Under better circumstances, first contact would involve cultural exchanges and diplomatic niceties." Vexora mimicked the handshake gesture as best her physiology allowed. "Admiral Chen, my team and I have studied human historical records extensively. Your species was always known for its adaptability under pressure." A hint of a smile touched Chen's lips. "That hasn't changed, Commander. If anything, 2 centuries of exile have only strengthened that trait." "Perhaps you could explain what these Void Swarm entities are," Vexora suggested, "and why the Consortium has no record of them." Chen gestured toward a large conference room. "Walk with me. There's much to explain, and little time." Inside the conference room, holographic displays showed the approaching darkness that was the Void Swarm, now clearly visible as it consumed the light from distant stars on its approach to the solar system. "The Void Swarm isn't a conventional enemy," Chen explained, activating additional displays that showed microscopic views of what appeared to be living shadow. "They exist partially in our reality and partially outside it. They feed primarily on energy, stellar radiation, planetary cores, and," she hesitated, consciousness itself. Consciousness, Fricks asked, his tendrils pulling close to his body in alarm. They don't just consume worlds, Officer Fricks. They consume memory, history, identity. When they devour a planet, they don't just take its physical form. They remove all trace that it ever existed from the collective memory of those who knew it. Vexura's crest flattened against her skull in horror. That's why we have no records of them. They've attacked before, and we simply forgot. Exactly, Chen confirmed grimly. Humanity discovered this the hard way when we lost our colony on Proxima Centauri. Not only was the colony destroyed, but within days, people began forgetting it had ever existed. Only those of us who had been studying the swarm, using specialized mnemonic technology, retained our memories of what had happened. But how did you discover them in the first place? Vexura asked. Chen's expression darkened. Because they've been here before. Earth has faced them before. We found evidence deep in our planet's geological record. A previous incarnation of human civilization that rose, encountered the swarm, and was nearly wiped out, perhaps 15,000 years ago by our calendar. Fricks's bioluminescence dimmed with shock. You're suggesting an advanced human civilization predated your recorded history. We found their warning, buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice, a message and a partial blueprint for the Sentinel. Our ancestors had faced the swarm and nearly lost everything, but they managed to drive them back temporarily and leave a warning for whoever would evolve after them. Before Vexura could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Alert, announced the ship's eye. Consortium vessel approaching Earth orbit. Weapons systems detected but not charged. Through the conference room's viewport, they watched as a massive consortium diplomatic vessel decelerated into orbit, maintaining a respectful distance from both the human fleet and the towering Sentinel. Incoming transmission from consortium vessel, the AI reported. A holographic projection appeared showing High Chancellor Melorix and her delegation. This is High Chancellor Melorix of the Galactic Consortium addressing the Earth Defense Fleet and human authorities. We come in peace and seek dialogue regarding these extraordinary developments. Admiral Chen straightened her uniform and addressed the projection with formal precision. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Reclamation Fleet. We acknowledge your peaceful intentions, Chancellor Melorix, and welcome the Consortium's interest. However, we currently face an imminent threat that takes priority over diplomatic protocols. We are aware of your claims regarding this void swarm, Melorix responded, her crystalline body pulsing with cautious blue-green light. While our records contain no evidence of such entities, Commander Vexura's reports are concerning. The Consortium offers its assistance in this matter. Chen's expression remained carefully neutral. We appreciate the offer, Chancellor. However, the Void Swarm is unlike any conventional enemy. Your ships and weapons would be ineffective against them without significant modifications. Then provide us with the necessary modifications, came a new voice from the Consortium delegation. Admiral Krax stepped forward, his exoskeleton gleaming under the holographic lights. If this threat is as grave as you claim, then it threatens all sentient life, not just humanity. For the first time, Chen's diplomatic facade cracked slightly, revealing genuine surprise. You would trust us with modifying your military technology, after we've been absent for 2 centuries. We would, Melorix confirmed, her body now pulsing with determined white light. The Consortium may have forgotten this enemy, but we have not forgotten how to recognize an existential threat when presented with evidence. Professor Xanthus has analyzed the data from Commander Vexura's team. The threat appears legitimate. Chen exchanged glances with her officers before nodding decisively. Very well. We accept your assistance, transmitting modification specifications to your fleet now. She turned to one of her officers and informed the Diaspora Command. We're no longer fighting alone. As the diplomatic exchange concluded, the ship's sensors registered new activity from the approaching Void Swarm. They're accelerating, reported a human officer, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Estimated arrival in under 6 hours, half our previous projection. They sense the Sentinel, Chen explained grimly. They remember their last defeat. They won't underestimate us again. Over the next few hours, Earth became the center of frantic preparation. Human engineers worked alongside consortium technicians, modifying weapons systems to operate on frequencies that could affect the partially extra-dimensional swarm. The Sentinel stood watch in orbit, gathering energy from the sun itself, a colossus of light against the encroaching darkness. Commander Vexera found herself on the command deck of the Defiance as the final preparations were made. Admiral Chen stood at the center of a holographic tactical display, issuing orders with calm efficiency. "Admiral," Vexera ventured during a momentary lull, "there's something I don't understand. If your ancestors drove back the swarm before, why did humanity choose to leave Earth rather than stand and fight when they returned?" Chen's gaze remained fixed on the tactical displays. "Because last time, victory came at too high a cost. 90% of the human population died. Civilization collapsed. It took thousands of years to rebuild." She finally turned to face Vexera directly. "This time, we chose a different strategy. We didn't run from Earth. We turned it into a weapon. And we evolved ourselves into warriors worthy of wielding it." "Evolved?" Fricks asked, overhearing the conversation as he worked with human scientists nearby. "You mean culturally?" A sad smile crossed Chen's face. "Not just culturally, Officer Thrix. During our diaspora, humanity underwent both technological and biological augmentation. We are no longer quite the humans you studied in your historical records." She rolled up her sleeve to reveal an arm laced with subtle circuitry that pulsed with the same blue-white energy as the Sentinel. "We became what we needed to be to face the swarm." Before the implications of this revelation could be fully processed, the ship's AI announced, "Void Swarm main body has entered the solar system. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 30 minutes. The viewports darkened automatically as the first tendrils of the swarm became visible, a darkness deeper than space itself, moving with purpose and hunger, consuming the light of distant Neptune as it approached. "All ships to battle positions," Chen ordered, her voice steady. "Sentinel Prime, initiate Protocol Sunforge." Outside, the massive Sentinel began to move, its enormous arms spreading wide as it positioned itself between Earth and the approaching darkness. Energy cascaded through its form, building to levels that threatened to overload the ship's sensors. "What is Protocol Sunforge?" Vexera asked, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her growing fear. "The last resort," Chen replied simply. "And our best hope." The darkness accelerated, sensing resistance. It spread outward, attempting to envelop the combined human and consortium fleet. Where it touched, shield systems failed and communications distorted. But the modified weapons fired beams of concentrated blue-white energy, the same energy that powered the Sentinel. And where these beams struck, the darkness recoiled. The battle joined in earnest. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their maneuvers suggesting minds operating far faster than organic reaction times. Consortium vessels, following the humans' lead, created a layered defense that prevented the swarm from finding gaps to exploit. At the center of it all stood the Sentinel, now blazing so brightly that even the heavily filtered viewports could barely contain the glare. It gathered energy from the sun through a kind of quantum entanglement, channeling power that would dwarf the output of most planetary fusion reactors. "The Sentinel reaches critical threshold," announced the ship's eye. "Sunforge protocol initiating in 3, 2, 1. The Sentinel brought its massive hands together, and between them formed a sphere of energy that rivaled a small star in brightness and heat. With a gesture that somehow conveyed both tremendous effort and precise control, it launched this newborn star directly into the heart of the void swarm. The impact was beyond spectacular, it was transcendent. Where the artificial star struck, the darkness did not merely recede, it screamed. The sound was not audible but psychic, a wail of agony that transcended normal sensory perception and resonated in the consciousness of every being that witnessed it. Quantum neural link established, Chen announced, her eyes now glowing with the same blue-white energy as the Sentinel. All modified vessels, channel your outputs through the Sentinel matrix. Now, both human and consortium ships oriented toward the Sentinel and began to emit beams of energy that the Colossus absorbed and channeled into the wound it had created in the swarm's mass. The darkness thrashed and contracted, trying to flee, but the combined forces held it in place as the Sentinel's energy continued to burn through its extra-dimensional structure. "It's working," Thrix whispered, his tendrils waving in scientific awe. "They're actually destroying it." "Not destroying," Chen corrected, her voice now overlaid with harmonic frequencies that suggested she was no longer speaking entirely as herself. "Transforming. The void swarm consumes energy and consciousness. We're giving it more than it can process, forcing evolution." As they watched, the darkness at the center of the swarm began to change. What had been a void of nothingness began to fill with points of light, tiny stars being born from the transformed matter of the swarm itself. "The final phase," Chen explained, her voice returning to normal as the glow faded from her eyes. "We're not just defeating them. We're changing them from consumers to creators." The process accelerated, spreading outward from the center of the swarm. Where there had been all-consuming darkness, a new nebula was forming, a cosmic nursery for future stars and worlds. As the transformation completed, the Sentinel lowered its arms, its brilliant glow dimming to a more sustainable radiance. The human fleet stood down from battle positions, and a collective exhalation seemed to pass through both human and consortium forces. "It's done," Chen announced, the tension of command finally showing in the slight slump of her shoulders. "The swarm has been transmuted. It will no longer consume. Instead, it will create." Vexura approached the Admiral, her scientific mind struggling to process what she had witnessed. "What exactly did you do to them?" Chen smiled, a genuine expression this time, tinged with both exhaustion and satisfaction. "We gave them what they sought, but never understood. The void swarm consumed consciousness because they lacked it themselves. We didn't just defeat them, we awakened them." "You gave them sentience?" Thrix asked incredulously. "In a manner of speaking. We completed a cycle that has likely played out countless times across the universe. The consumers become the consumed, the destroyers become creators." Chen turned to face both her own officers and the consortium representatives. "And in doing so, we've secured a future not just for humanity or the consortium, but for all life in this galaxy." High Chancellor Melorix's holographic form approached, her crystalline body now pulsing with colors that indicated profound respect in her species' emotional spectrum. "Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Consortium, I extend our deepest gratitude. Humanity has not only returned to the galactic community, you have saved it." Chen nodded in acknowledgement. "Chancellor Melorix, humanity didn't leave to abandon the galaxy. We left to become what the galaxy needed us to be. Now we return, not as conquerors or refugees, but as guardians." "And what happens now?" Vexura asked, her gaze drawn to the beautiful nebula forming where the void swarm had been, a cosmic work of art born from existential threat. "Now," Chen replied with a smile that contained equal measures of wariness and hope, "we begin the work of remembering. The void swarm consumed history and memory across countless worlds. With their transformation, those memories will start to return. Civilizations thought lost to myth will be rediscovered. Worlds believed to be legends will be found again." She turned to look out at Earth, the homeworld that humanity had transformed into a fortress and was now ready to reclaim as a home once more. "And humanity will help rebuild what was lost," she continued. "That was always our purpose, not just to fight the darkness, but to preserve the light." As the combined fleets of humanity and the consortium began the process of standing down from battle stations, the Sentinel returned to its position above Earth. Its massive form no longer blazed with combat energy, but instead glowed with a steady, reassuring light, a beacon visible across the solar system and beyond. The ancient protector of humanity had awakened, and in its awakening, it had not brought the silence of extinction, but rather the harmony of preservation. The stars that had fallen silent under the swarm's consumption would sing again, and this time, humanity would ensure their song continued uninterrupted. Commander Vexera stood beside Admiral Chen as Earth's defense systems began the process of reconfiguring for peacetime operations. The first civilian ships from the diaspora fleet were beginning their approach to the homeworld that most of their passengers had never seen except in historical records. Your people will need to relearn how to live on a planet again, Vexera observed. After 2 centuries in space, Earth might seem as alien to them as it did to my expedition. Chen smiled, watching as the first transport shuttles descended toward the surface. That's the thing about humans, Commander. We never truly forget our home. No matter how far we roam or how much we change, Earth remains in our collective memory, our biological and cultural blueprint. She extended her hand once more, this time in a formal gesture that Vexera recognized from her studies of human diplomatic customs. On behalf of humanity, I officially welcome the Galactic Consortium to Earth, not just as visitors or allies, but as friends who stood with us when it mattered most. Vexera took the Admiral's hand, her 6 eyes blinking in the pattern that signified profound emotion among her species. And on behalf of the Consortium, I thank humanity for remembering us, even when we have forgotten you. The stars will never fall silent again, not while our civilizations stand together. Above them, the Sentinel continued its vigilant watch, not just over Earth, but over all worlds that might one day face darkness. A guardian not just of humanity, but of all sentient life. A beacon of hope in a galaxy suddenly remembering just how much it had once lost, and how much it had just regained. The ancient protector had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again.